right, well, welcome to Brown Fest. I have to say that last night and today, it's lovely to see all of you folks, both people from New Mexico, of course, but those of you coming from out of town. I could wish that our skies were a little less hazy from the wildfires that are burning around, but they're probably still bluer than many of the skies where you come from. Not that we're bragging or anything. A few logistics to start. If you pre-registered for the symposium, you have one of these lovely dashing name tags, and in the back of it you'll notice that there are tickets for the various events that you signed up for. Some of the name tags have a fatal flaw in that stuff slides out of them. If it does, you might want to take the tickets out of the name tag, because once we run out of tickets, we're sort of in trouble. The lunch, if you pre-registered, will be here. There's a really nice little lounge area right as you walk in the door on this side. You probably saw it. So you'll pick up lunch at whatever time it's scheduled. There's coffee and water and tea right outside the door. So at this point, I have to acknowledge a fatal flaw in the scheduling of this program. We somehow lost our morning break. I'm not entirely sure how that happened. Overzealous moderators, I wish I could blame. I suspect it's myself, scheduling right over it. So when you need to leave, just go do that thing. There are restrooms on either side of this room, so they're easy to find. So just feel free to come and go. There will be people from UNM coming and going most of the day as well. We don't have a lot of food in the morning. We do have some afternoon snacks. So if you come peckish and you need additional substance, the science isn't enough for you, there are vending machines behind the registration desk as well. And if you have any sort of questions, you need directions, you signed up for the dinner and you need to know how to get there, there are these lovely little tags that say UNM on some of the stickers. The people that have those stickers are supposed to know what's going on. I think most of us do. Except for one of my grad students who shall remain nameless, who's not here right now. Anyway, don't ask him. But all the rest of them should know exactly what's going on. So feel free to ask people questions, right? And anyway. Okay, so before we start, I just need to I'd like to acknowledge a few people, because this event is possible because of the generous support of some entities here at UNM. The Department of Biology in particular, the Dean of Arts and Sciences, and even the University of New Mexico President's Office, who also are supporting this event and even signed our alcohol permit, which is not a mean feat these days. So it's also been supported by our program in interdisciplinary biology and biomedical science, PIBS, which Jim and I direct. And there has been a large number of people helping, grad students, a local organizing team of Melanie Moses, Shannon McCoy-Hayes, Nate Holscher, and myself. And of these, I particularly have to thank Nate, whose Herculean efforts have made this possible, because he basically did everything. So this event wouldn't have happened without his really, really excellent organizational skills. So when you see him, he's the guy looking worried, walking around. Just thank him, because he's been a hero. So the idea of doing something for Jim and Astrid started about the time that they started talking about retirement, which was a couple of years ago. So it just sort of seemed wrong that we could let them retire, in a quiet way and kind of fade into the academic sunset or whatever it is. So many of Jim's students, postdocs, and colleagues started talking, we got to do something. But what that something wasn't really clear for a while. So eventually we decided that maybe something that combines social events and science would be appropriate for two lifelong scientists like Jim and Astrid. And, as you know, they've been in the scientific enterprise for a really long time. This picture from Greg Byers is of a trip in Puerto Rico in 1979. They've also had this really interesting kind of career trajectory, which has taken them from the University of Michigan to UCLA, to the University of Utah, to the University of Arizona, and finally here to the University of New Mexico. Although I would point out that the majority of their research careers, and dare I say the most productive, have been here at UNM, undoubtedly because of their excellent colleagues, right? Together, Astrid and Jim have something like, if I can coin a new term, 50 professor years, right, here at UNM, which is really pretty amazing. And over that period of time, they've had a really profound influence in science, in terms of both their science and their effect on education. So their influence in science has been profound both individually, in their own right, in their fields in which they specialize in, but also amazingly together. And this rescue effect paper, published in 1977, which they wrote together, is one of a number of really classic papers that has shaped, I think, a generation of scientists. This paper has an amazing number of citations, and it's one that people still cite like crazy today. But of course, individually, they've also made a lot of contributions in a number of ways. And I'm not going to be talking a lot about those various contributions because that is what the symposium is about, right? We've organized it around the 5 kind of major themes, and I think the talks will showcase some of those better. I would say that in recent years, that Jim at least has been obsessed with his search for general universal laws of science. I'm glad to say he's found some, as is depicted in this one figure. He's also apparently studied Edward Tufts' book on how to present scientific data in a very visual way. But you'll feel more on that later too. So in addition to doing science, I think that both Astrid and Jim have been wonderful mentors to cohorts of graduate students and postdocs. And that's probably true as long as you passed your comps. There are at least 2 or 3 people who emailed me with this almost exact verbatim quote that they heard from Jim after they failed their comps. So you can insert your name if you're one of those people right there. And I think as long as you pass your comps, I think that both of them served a very vital role in graduate education. They've had quite a number of stellar graduate students, and it's certainly true that the bar was raised very high for Brown students in particular. There is more to this story, but you'll hear this later tonight. In organizing this event, we heard from a number of current and former students. The one common thread in all the communications we heard is that Jim and Astrid are good people. They're not only passionate and interested in science, but they're also passionate and interested in education and mentoring. They know when to intervene and when to let people swim alone and not drown. And all of us, their students, their postdocs and colleagues, have benefited greatly from their superb scientific intuition, their sage advice, and their unwavering support of us in our various endeavors. And indeed, I think their academic progeny have done very well for themselves. I had a really interesting email exchange with Doug Kelt, who sadly couldn't make it this weekend because he's in the middle of final exams at the University of California. And with their budget situation the way it is, he probably was afraid to get fired if he left, I don't know. Doug talked about his time with both Astrid and Jim, and he was telling me he couldn't think of what to say about them, and he said this so eloquent. He made it seem so easy. The double-edged sword is that he galvanizes you to excel, but when you leave and build your own lab, you realize that for mortal folks, it doesn't come quite so easily. And I think that's a pretty fair statement. So what we've done then in response to what to do for these people is we've organized a symposium, apparently pretty badly since we forgot the break in the morning, that is centered on 5 of the different scientific disciplines where Astrid and Jim have made seminal contributions. So these are community ecology, behavior, macroecology, evolutionary speciation, and metabolic ecology. The moderators were charged with the inviting of folks and with the organization of their sessions. The result is not uniform. We have talks of varying lengths from 5 minutes to 20. I don't think there's anything longer than that. The common theme is, with the exception of the very last talk by Jeff West, everyone participating is either a former student or a postdoc of Jim or Astrid. And their affiliations with Jim are indicated on the abstracts. And actually, if I could just interject here for a second, those of you who have an affiliate, it would be really nice if you would take your name tag out and at the bottom just write what your affiliation is with Jim, because the only ones where that's indicated are the ones in the program. And for a lot of us, it would be kind of nice to know how you fit in the sort of academic lineage. So please do so. And I still haven't figured out how postdocs fit in, right? So somebody please tell me. So my student, as a postdoc at Jim's, what do my students write? I don't know, but something. Anyway, what I hope you will enjoy are the talks today. I think they're going to be a really interesting montage of sorts. So thank you all for coming. And the first session is organized by Shrews.